Welcome to Watch, Review, Repeat. This is the podcast where two best friends discuss the latest in film and television and then do it all over again the following week. My name is Colton Brown, and joining me is Andrew Meadows.
Hello, sir. How are you?
Doing very well. How are you?
I'm doing all right. Doing pretty good. Fixing to go on vacation.
Oh, that sounds like fun. Well, I think I can think of something a little bit more fun than that. How about the fact that we have a special guest joining us on this very special episode? With us today, it's my man, Jordan Brown. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. How are you, gentlemen?
That's badass.
I think it was a pretty badass introduction, if I do say so myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think we're doing well. It's a late night. I brewed a little bit of coffee because it's gonna be a long night, as it turns out. But we're gonna have some fun. We're gonna be talking about the most badass film of 2018, and that, of course, would be Aquaman.
It's been a long time coming.
We have been talking about that fucking movie for quite some time on this show. So, yeah, it's kind of the end of a journey of sorts. I mean, it's not the end of our journey. We're going to have episodes after this. Don't worry about that. But
the wait for Aquaman is over. Finally.
The wait for Aquaman is over. We know we've got another entry into the vaunted DC cinematic universe, you know? So it'll be fun. And then we have a guest here to talk about it with us. Now, Andrew, I think that you do not have a fun fact lined up. So I prepared one in your stead.
Well, that's awfully presumptuous, you asshole.
Did you come up with something do you have a fun fact?
No, I don't.
Okay, so it wasn't presumptuous.
It was presumptuous that I did not have a fun fact.
Well, we did have a conversation about this at one point in time, so I don't feel like I was going out on too far of a limb, to be fair.
No, I guess you're not. I am oftentimes unprepared.
Well, I to kind of lead into my fun fact, I would ask either of you gentlemen, have either of you watched the show Entourage by any chance?
I have not.
I've seen an episode here and there. Not intimately familiar with it.
Okay, all right. You might have some idea of where I'm going with this. So within the fictional universe of Entourage, the HBO television show that aired feels like a decade ago, that somewhere around there. There was a fictionalized version of an Aquaman film kind of within the scope of that universe, in which one of the lead characters actually got cast as Aquaman. And in that universe, in the Entourage verse, Aquaman was to be directed by James Cameron. And apparently, so Vinny Chase was the character that was supposed to play Aquaman in that. Mandy Moore was also supposed to be in it, and James Woods as well. Oh, and Ray Liotta, Sharon Stone. So none of those actors made it into the actual Aquaman that we're talking about, but I enjoy that. There's another thing. There's kind of this image graphic I think I've seen posted around where it has Aquaman sets the biggest box office record with its opening weekend's $116 million. Can you imagine a movie making $116 million in one weekend? Unheard of. Positively unheard of.
If anybody could do it, it'd be Jim Cameron, but I just can't imagine somebody reaching those heights.
There's no way. There's just no way.
Or depths.
Those depths.
That was pretty good. It was pretty good. So that's my fun fact.
That's a pretty good fun fact. Yeah, that's pretty good. It's pretty interesting.
Yeah. I hear bad things about Entourage this show, but it was relevant for the purposes of this episode. So, yeah, that's that. Let's get into some news for this week. I think we've got some good stuff to talk about. As always, we like to keep it tailored to our interests as much as possible. So let me kick it over to you, Andrew. You have some news you want to talk about?
Boy, do I ever. Have you seen that Godzilla trailer? The second Godzilla trailer to come out?
Jordan and I actually saw that trailer in IMAX in front of our Aquaman adventure.
My
So that was definitely the best format that I've seen then, but I had seen it prior to that, and yes.
Lord have mercy. I bet that was a spectacle.
It was a spectacle indeed.
Yeah, I've got I would say I have high hopes for that movie. I'm pretty excited about that one.
Well, I would say to me, it seems like, at least from a marketing standpoint, they've learned the lesson from the Godzilla 2014 experience, where that movie very much hid Godzilla, from plain sight. Like 3/4 of that movie is like kind of, leading you to this big climactic moment with Godzilla appearing, and then like there's like a literal moment where like the door's shut and you're like, you can't see anything, and then there's a moment where you see Godzilla like kind of in the corner on a TV, and this one's just like, nah man, fuck that. Like, we're giving you not only Godzilla, but we're going to give you big ass fucking monsters, and they're all going to fight each other, and it's going to look extremely impressive. It doesn't look like they cheaped out as far as budgeting concerns go on this thing, because it looks massive in scale, like unlike anything spectacular we've ever seen, I think, with the Godzilla franchise. I would say I'm also on the hype train for it. Jordan, you have some thoughts on this?
Yeah, I was pretty blown away by the trailer the first time I saw it. I generally, as a practice, don't even try to see trailers unless I'm super excited. On my computer, I'll wait until I happen to see it in the cinema. So that one, I had heard it was out, but I hadn't sought it out. I saw it in IMAX for the first time a few weeks ago. I've seen it maybe 2 or 3 times since then, and it's pretty impressive every time. I will say I was not super impressed by either the Godzilla or Skull Island efforts, but something about this trailer gets me pretty pumped for it. I'd say my only concerns are, I guess, going back to like the first Avengers, going into that, just there's so many characters, and in this case monsters, and I could see it being kind of a mess just because of the breadth of material they're trying to cover. But if it lives up to the hype of the trailer, it'll be a pretty fantastic watch.
Yeah. Well, I'm hoping it does live up to that trailer, because I feel like it's setting the expectations high, at least as far as I'm concerned.
I tell you what kind of set the expectations kind of low.
Oh, what's that?
That's Hellboy. We got a trailer for Hellboy, and I was not impressed by this trailer. I was impressed by they released a photo of Homeboy dressed up as Hellboy, and I was pumped up about that, and I was pumped up about the poster that they released. But then this trailer comes out, and I'm just like, it's kind of underwhelmed. I don't have high hopes for this one. What was your opinion on this trailer?
About the same. Yeah, I would say that I like the casting of David Harbour as Hellboy. I mean, I don't know that... I feel like Ron Perlman was just fucking made for that role, and he owned that role, so it's kind of like it's a hard transition to move away from Ron Perlman. But I feel like, as far as replacements go, David Harbour's great in Stranger Things. He seems to be pretty awesome on his, in his own right. I feel like the look for the Hellboy here is pretty good, but the movie itself feels kind of like low-budget schlock to me, at least in terms of the way this trailer was presented to us.
Just seemed kind of written poorly. I don't know.
Yeah,
none of the jokes really landed, and
and it's got the Mila Jovovich thing going for it too, where it's like, like she's pretty much done exclusively Resident Evil movies for like the past 10 years of her career, and I'm like, oh boy, someone had the bright idea to cast her in something else. It's kind of like, oh, I guess maybe, maybe they watched too many Resident Evils. Are like, this, I really like this. Let me do this too. I don't know.
It's kind of weird.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'll see it, don't get me wrong, but I don't understand why you're going to not make a Hellboy 3 with Del Toro involved, and then you do this, if it's like if you're going to make a Hellboy movie, why are you doing this instead of the other thing that would be infinitely more interesting? I think that's maybe the disappointing thing for me, but it does have Ian McShane in it, so, that's something.
There's that. Yeah, so I guess we'll see where it goes.
Yeah, Jordan, how do you feel about Hellboy 2019?
I wanted to like it. I think I walked away from seeing the trailer for the first time yesterday, still wanting to like it, but not wanting to commit that I did not like it, which is, I think, how I felt about the trailer. It's early. It's the first trailer. It seemed like they were cutting it for a comedic effect and a one-liner witty banter, but I really didn't like anything about the trailer. Certainly not getting me hyped up for any... Well, I take that back. I thought the scene with the full-on horns at the end was kind of a cool visual.
Yeah, it's kind of cool.
I liked the first set shot or promo shot or whatever it was that came out a couple months ago. But even in action, I didn't think the prosthetics or whatever they're doing looked great, and just what they chose to show. If that was putting their best foot forward, it's going to be terrible. So what I'm hoping is there's a disconnect between what it is and what they showed, and we'll see.
Well, I guess we'll just have to wait and see what happens.
Yep, like most trailers. I will tell you one other news that kind of picked me back up. You know, we kind of got like a roller coaster effect going on here.
Okay.
With the way I feel about
I'm thrilled. I'm thrilled by this ride, so I can't wait to see what's next.
Blade Runner is getting an anime series, and it looks like it's going to be on Adult Swim and on Crunchyroll, which is cool. It's going to be titled Black Lotus, and it's going to consist of 13 half-hour episodes, and looks like it's going to take place in 2032, and it's going to help establish some Blade Runner characters in the universe, so that's cool. Apparently there are, the guy who directed, his name is Kenji Kamiyama, and, he's working on a Ghost in the Shell reboot, if I'm reading this correctly, and Watanabe is going to be a producer on it. Shinichiro Watanabe?
Yeah. Shinichiro Watanabe.
Yeah, you say it so good. Maybe I shouldn't have picked the anime news.
Well, I think Watanabe, he worked on because there was a series of shorts that came out before 2049, and one of which was animated. I think Watanabe was the I don't know if he created it or directed it or what, but I think he was very heavily involved with that particular animated short that kind of came out ahead of the most recent movie. So there's obviously some continuity there.
Yeah, so I like the universe that those animes and stuff, the ones that came out before 2049. I enjoyed all those series or all those little short films, and I just enjoy the universe as a whole. So the more we get of that is exciting news to me. So there it is.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I mean, it's nice to see kind of somewhat of a Blade Runner renaissance of sorts. I don't think 2049 did well enough to justify, I wouldn't think, making any sort of sequels immediately. You know, and I don't know that it's a movie that necessarily demands them anyway, but I feel like with that gap that they, kind of set between the original and the sequel, there's clearly many years, that they can really explore and kind of expand on the universe, and I think that an anime is definitely a strong way to do that. So yeah, I'm in on this.
Yeah, I obviously really enjoyed the movie. I got to be a guest on the previous Blade Runner episode.
Did indeed.
Yeah, I'd be interested to see what it is. It's not like, I have to see this. I'm like super, super excited. Can't wait. But I'm interested, and it's something I'll be like keeping my eye on. Hopefully the reviews come in and it's well received and it's a quality product to, continue the world. Because I certainly don't think the box office justified, as you said, sequels. But I'd like to see some more stories in there if they're well told stories. I'm happy if they aren't, if they left it as it is. But if they tell stories that are well told, I'd be interested in following up on them. And obviously the talent, I don't know what level of involvement, but Shinichiro Watanabe, is that the name? I think he's the Cowboy Bebop guy.
He is,
which is obviously one of the border crossing classics of anime. So certainly sounds like there's some talented people behind it, which is a good sign.
Hot take: I've never seen Cowboy Bebop.
Oh. Well, hot take, I haven't either, but I have some news concerning Cowboy Bebop that I'd like to share with both of you, if that's all right.
I just want to interject. I don't think your viewing status is necessarily a hot take, is it? I don't think it qualifies as a hot take, but
see, now,
that aside, please continue.
I agree, but Andrew rarely uses the word hot take in any sort of context that actually...
I have a disconnect from
hot take,
myself and the rest of society. I hear things and I think they're applicable when they're not. I also mispronounce many names. I don't know. I'm disconnected.
I will say this: your usage of hot take is more enjoyable and amusing than the normal hot take, which is I'm going to say something really, really stupid and sound like a dumbass, and I don't care what you think about that. This is my opinion. You can't convince me otherwise, which is usually what hot take means. So,
is that what it means?
Yeah, but don't use it like that now.
I thought it was like
Where's
a fun fact.
No,
I thought it was like a fun fact. Fun fact. Hot take. No. Oh shit.
I mean, you could use fun facts for that. You know,
I could just announce fun fact.
My friend, you do you. I think that is the best for everyone involved. Cowboy Bebop. I have also not seen it. It's shameful, but I did purchase the Blu-ray series as a side note, so it's on the list. It's on the list. I have a way to watch it. But Cowboy Bebop is it's a very popular anime. Shinichiro Watanabe was the director of that, and we just talked about him in the context of the Blade Runner anime. Netflix is doing a live-action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. And, it's Netflix, so, they've apparently got the money for it. They've got however much money they can blow on having the rights to Friends for a year or some bullshit like that. So, Shinichiro Watanabe is going to serve as a consultant on the live-action project, and then some of the other creatives involved that I see named are Christopher Yost, who worked on Thor the Second Thor and Thor Ragnarok, also known as Thor the Third Thor, the good one, the best one, easily the best one. It's interesting. I mean, I know they're doing the Avatar Last Airbender live-action adaptation as well. Yeah. So seems like maybe they've got a trend here of adapting some anime type things, but Jordan,
in the past, I'm sorry, I'll cut you off real quick.
Okay.
In the past, they didn't do a live action adaptation of what, Bleach? Was it Bleach they did an adaptation on, or Death Note, or both?
I think they did a Death Note movie, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, I don't know that I ever saw it. I do know I didn't see it.
Bleach is one of those things like Naruto that's just been going on for ages and ages and ages. So I guess they could make like one story as a movie, but that would be really hard to cover as a movie. But it is possible. If they did do it, I hadn't heard of it.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I do know they did a Death Note, though, and I heard that was not well received at all. So hopefully that's not the case with Avatar. I'd be a little upset if it was the case with Avatar, because I really like Avatar. But I hope that's not the case with Cowboy Bebop. Jordan, I'm assuming you've seen Cowboy Bebop, yeah?
Yeah, I've watched through it a couple times. I think the first time was probably back in college. I had a roommate of mine who was a big fan of it. I don't know if you heard the theme song. It's real catchy. There's kind of a jazz influence to the whole vibe of the show. But I mean, you first get it in the first time you see the introduction, the opening segment. It's kind of just one series. I don't know, 24, 26 episodes, kind of standard format. You follow a group of basically space bounty hunter type characters, and it's kind of a combination of episodic and serialized content, and it kind of, there's a through line that's followed in maybe half the episodes, and there's the monster or villain of the week in the rest of them, and it's a great show. I've enjoyed it both times I've watched it, and I'm certainly interested to see what happens with this. I think I saw some casting news, the casting calls. So they're looking for, I think, Asian actors to play most of the primary cast. I think an African-American actor to play one of the other members of the cast. That's the eternal debate of anime characters. Are they white? Are they Asian? You can never really tell, but it's interesting to see where this will go. I know, I feel like, I assume because he was interested, like Keanu Reeves was always attached to play the lead character, and I never really wanted to see that, but I like Keanu. But we'll see what happens. I think he's probably a little old for that, despite being a vampire. His time to play the role may have passed, but I'll be interested to see who they cast, and just hope it has a high production value, and it's hope they put something quality forward.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Let me ask you just a quick follow-up question. Since you're the only one that has any sort of real familiarity with the anime, do you feel like it's something that could translate to a live-action medium and be successful?
Absolutely. I think there's some anime quirks and things like that probably, even if some fans may be disappointed, could probably be dropped along the way. But for the most part, I think it's a very mature and interesting storyline that I think could very well be adapted. I mean, I think if they gave it the budget of something like Altered Carbon, I don't think they'd have much of a problem doing it, because, I mean, there are certain scenes where they're, in futuristic landscapes and cityscapes and all that, but a lot of the stories are just between a cast of, 3 or 4 characters on their ship. So, I mean, it doesn't have to be extreme. I mean, obviously there'll be certain episodes they need to have big expenditures, but the storyline itself is translatable, and I think the way it's told could also be translated to a story pretty successfully that could be told in a television series.
All right, well, we will watch the development of this show with great interest. Let's move on to some other news. Let's jump over to 007, James Bond. We've got some news concerning Bond 25, which I believe is at this point supposed to be Daniel Craig's last film as Bond. And we've received word that Léa Seydoux is going to reprise her role from Spectre as Madeleine Swan. She was the Bond girl from Spectre that seemed like, her and Bond had a pretty good thing going at the end of that. So she's going to be coming back for this. We do know that the movie is going to be directed by Cary Fukunaga, True Detective Season 1, Maniac fame. So thoughts on bringing this character back?
Do you think there's any chance they'll have her reprise her Mission Impossible role as well? Is that a thing that's in the cards?
I feel I feel like it'd be hard. You'd have to reassemble her from the ground after falling from the Burj Khalifa. It's probably hard to survive that fall, I would say. I'm not an expert or anything, but
she could be a fucking android, dude.
I honestly, I've seen Spectre, I want to say probably just the one time. I thought it was troubled production. I'm a huge fan of Daniel Craig as Bond. I hope that he does as many as he wants to do. I just wish he'd had a better luck with the quality of the films and the output. I don't think there's anything wrong with bringing her back. I just would need to probably see it again to commit to whether I think it's a good thing or a neutral thing. Definitely not a bad thing, though, regardless. But I'll be interested to see what it is. If it is the last one, I hope they really nail everything and just put out a great product. So we'll see what happens.
Andrew, what are your thoughts on Spectre?
It's really pretty. It's a very pretty movie. Shot really nice. It's been a long time since I've seen it.
Yeah.
I think this particular character is pretty cool. I know she I can't really remember what she did in the movie. I don't know. I don't have any.
I think she mostly just got kidnapped towards the end so that Bond could rescue her. I feel like that
on the island, right? She went on the island and he had to shoot a thing off of her head or something. No,
that was Skyfall, but that was a different character.
Which one? Oh, okay. See, I don't know.
So, Spectre is the one with Blofeld in it. It was me, James, the author of all your pain. And I think it had Dave Bautista in it as well. He was like a big, he's Dave Bautista. Of course, he's a big fucking dude. But
that really, no, yeah, that narrows down his characters. Yeah,
but no, I think he did. What did he have? Like metal. Did he have metal teeth in it or something? He had metal fingernails is what it was, I think.
He had metal fingernails?
Right? Am I making that up? Someone back me up.
I do not remember that at all.
Metal fucking fingernails?
That does not mean you were making it up.
He was a henchman for Blofeld, and he fought with Bond, I think, on a train of some sort. I haven't seen this movie in a while either.
Did they call him Claws instead of Jaws? Was that
I'm pretty sure the character's name was Mr. Hinks, and I don't think I'm making that part up.
Is that the one where they blow up the facility in the desert?
Yes.
It was a ridiculously extravagant explosion?
Yes, that was that one. It's one where they're drilling into Bond's head, and you're not going to remember anything, motherfucker. And then he's like, I'm James Bond, fuck you, I will, even though you did exactly what you said you were going to do. And then they blow everything up and run away, and then it was at the end where Blofeld's all remember all these villains from these other movies? Yeah, I'm responsible for everything, even though this is clearly some asshole that's happening right here. It was a troubled movie. That's probably a good way of framing it. But clearly they like this character well enough to bring her back. So, have you done some internet research?
I did some internet research, and Mr. Hanks has granite fingernails on his thumbs, and there's a picture of him doing an eye gouge maneuver on somebody.
Okay.
So
I wasn't totally off base.
What? That's crazy.
That's how memorable this last Bond film was. I feel like it's kind of a good point that we're making inadvertently, in the fact that we've all seen this movie and we can barely remember anything from it. So I think the hope is that Bond 25 will be a little bit more memorable, maybe something a little bit closer in quality to Casino Royale. I mean,
what's the history on returning leading ladies? I know there's been actresses that have returned and played different characters. At least once, maybe twice, but
I think it's
returned.
I think it's pretty unprecedented, aside from Moneypenny's. In terms of like lead roles, like I don't. It's definitely never happened in the Craig tenure. And Jordan, I think you're more well versed in the Bond films than I would say either Andrew or myself are. So I would say, if you don't recall any instances, I can't think of anything else either. So, I feel like the Craig movies, certainly compared to the other ones, have paid a little bit more attention to continuity. I mean, especially like Casino de Quantum, and then with Spectre, trying to tie everything into a nice tidy bow that probably shouldn't have been tied in that sort of manner, but it's at least, made this attempt to kind of craft that, there's kind of this thread that's kind of running throughout, this whole franchise. So I think it's a first in terms of like bringing someone back deliberately for that type of role, but I could be wrong on that front.
Yeah, I was trying to look real quick, and I can't see anything springing to mind as actors returning as the same characters, Bond girls, that is, I guess, specifically. So I think you're probably right. I mean, there obviously were certain films where there was a more sentimental attachment versus a less sentimental attachment, and I think they've certainly played with Bond's emotions a little bit and the continuity, and maybe that's part of the problem, to be honest with you. But it's been a while since I've seen the films. I went through a marathon, and you may recall I lent them to you to borrow, and I think you probably still have not watched them. So however long you've been holding on to my films is probably the last time I watched through most of the Bond movies.
Have you been holding on to films, Colton? Have you been hoarding films?
I can neither confirm nor deny the accusation that's been made. So... but I can confirm that there has been a lot of casting that has been announced for The Mandalorian.
Oh, yeah?
The upcoming Disney Plus Star Wars live action series. So some of this we've touched on. And I think this might be the first time that like StarWars.com, that Lucasfilm has come out and actually confirmed not only things that we knew previously, but also some additional cast members that have signed on to the project. So Pedro Pascal, he is...
Justin Timberlake.
He is going to play the title role of a lone Mandalorian gunfighter in the outer reaches of the galaxy, but he won't do it alone. He's going to be joined by Gina Carano, who we had previously discussed as being part of the project. She was in Deadpool, Haywire, a couple other things. Giancarlo Esposito joining the cast. I'd say probably most well known for his role in Breaking Bad. What was his character's name? Gus? Does that sound right? Am I making that up? I could be making that
Gus?
up. I don't know. He was the Los Pollos Hermanos owner, the restaurant.
Yeah, Gus. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That was Gus. Okay, I'm not making that up.
I think so. Pretty sure.
Emily Swallow, I think most well known for work on Supernatural, which has about 30 seasons, and I will almost certainly never watch any of them. Carl motherfucking Weathers, we got a stew going, baby.
Dutch.
Dylan. So he's in it. I know we talked about.
You son of a bitch.
You son of a bitch. I think he was. What's the matter, CIA? Got you pushing too many pencils. I think he was rumored for the role. And we talked about that, but he's in. Omid Abtabi, I'm sorry, I fucked that name up. I pulled
Oh
an
my
Andrew
god!
right there.
What?
Omid Abtahi, I believe, is the pronunciation on that. He has been an American god, so Andrew might be the only person that might recognize him. I don't know what role he was in that, so I can't help you with that. Werner Herzog is going to be in fucking Star Wars, so that's pretty impressive. And Nick Nolte rounding out the cast, so pretty damn good cast that old Johnny V has assembled for us, I would say.
Johnny V knows what the fuck is going on, dude. He is in tune with all things. I can't think of anything that he's not in tune with. He's a fabulous man, Johnny V. He's particularly fabulous with a mullet. I do like his mullet and Iron Man 3.
And Iron Man 3, yeah,
it's pretty good.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
I nominate Nick Nolte to play Boba Fett personally.
I mean, I feel like if there's any time to bring Boba Fett in, you got to do it with this show. And if Nick Nolte, I mean, I don't know that. I mean, I don't think that necessarily tracks with the whole clone thing. But fuck it, man, I'm in. I'm good with that.
I'm interested to see the show. I'm pretty excited for it. It may actually get me to subscribe to the service, or more likely to borrow certain information that would allow me to watch it from you. But either way, I will. I'm looking forward to it. The cast list doesn't push me one way or the other. I mean, I like generally the people who are mentioned in the cast, but I just am more interested in the final product they put together. So nobody's bad in the cast, I guess. That's a good sign. So really excited to see what happens and what it's all about.
What is it all about?
I guess we will find out when it comes out late 2019 per this press release. So yeah, very good. I'm very much excited about that. Well, I'm a little bit excited to talk about some Aquaman if you guys are ready to get into it.
Let's dive right in.
Oh. Oh, killing me over there. All right, so Aquaman was directed by James Wan. It was written by David Leslie Johnson McGoldrick, the longest name in the world, and Will Bell. Stars my man Jason Momoa, my woman Amber Heard, my man Willem Dafoe. All right, I'm going to stop doing that. Willem Dafoe, Patrick Wilson, Dolph Lundgren, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, and Nicole Kidman.
What?
You seem very perplexed by something.
Who is Dolph Lundgren?
He was King Nerys. He was Mara's father.
He was! Holy shit! Oh, man. That's who that fucking guy was.
Yeah, it's fucking Dolph, man. It's fucking Dolph.
That's awesome. All right.
Yep. So, in Aquaman, Arthur Curry, also known as Aquaman, the heir to the underwater kingdom of Atlantis, must step forward to lead his people against his half-brother, King Orm, who seeks to unite the 7 underwater kingdoms against the surface world. That is a lot of mumbo-jumbo. Let's put it that way. Box office, it's doing pretty well. Actually, it's kind of been the runaway number one over the holiday break, and we talked about how basically every studio, staked out a spot for Christmas and planted their flag, and between Aquaman, Bumblebee, Mary Poppins Returns, and I guess Vice, or it's not really kind of in that same mix, but that's a lot of movies. Holmes and Watson, side note, didn't have any reviews on Rotten Tomatoes until like the day of its release, and they're slowly trickling in, and let's just say they're not good, and let's also say that we're not going to cover it. But Aquaman, it was number one by quite a large margin compared to any of those other movies that I just mentioned. It made $67.4 million in its domestic opening, and check this, it is up to $556.8 million worldwide, mostly bolstered by an absolutely insane run in China, who has contributed $232 million to the box office receipts for Aquaman. So that is
how early did it release in
insane.
China? Do you know?
I think it was at least a week ahead of the American release, and the way Chinese box office typically works is they have usually, it seems like 1, maybe 2 weeks of box office where they do like gangbusters type numbers if they're kind of this type of success, and then it, something new comes out and pretty much no one sees the same thing again. It kind of just transitions over to whatever the next film is.
I gotcha.
So I don't know that it'll make much more than what it's already made, but goddamn, it's made a lot of money in China. Like, that's wild. That's absolutely wild. So China's eating this shit up, but I want to know if you guys are eating this shit up. Andrew, I'm very curious to hear your thoughts. I've had a little bit of a conversation with Jordan since I've been hanging out with him over the past few days, but we really haven't had a chance to talk about it. So tell me what you thought.
I enjoyed this movie a lot more than I thought I was going to enjoy it. I don't want to say that it's not stupid and it does not have apparent flaws, because those are definitely super evident. I think that the DC flying around fights are, I don't know, they just kind of lend themselves well to fighting in the water. That was one of my complaints with, I think, Wonder Woman, and I think every other DC movie. They have like this inherent way that all the superheroes fight. They like to start on one end and fly towards each other really fast, and they just that just seems like that's what they do. And that happened in this one. But they're underwater. How else are they going to fight? It seems like a logical way to fight, I guess. I don't know. It was written very poorly. I didn't care for the way it was written. But at the same time, I did enjoy it, and I'm not quite sure why I enjoyed it. I think what it was is I set the bar so low. I didn't think it was totally egregious. I didn't think it was.
I don't know that it was you setting the bar so low as so much as the marketing setting it quite low. I would say.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
You pretty much formed your expectations based on what had been presented to you, especially that 6-minute trailer, which
that was fucking terrible.
Was rough, and it actually highlights some of the roughest parts of this film.
I did enjoy I enjoyed the structure of the film. It kind of seemed like I don't know. It just seemed like an adventure movie, and I thought that was kind of interesting. I thought that I don't know. I'm running out of words, because it really was not a. It was a fun movie. I'll say it that way. It was a fun movie. I had fun watching it. I don't think there's the merits of excellent films are not present in this one. I don't think, but it is an entertaining thing to watch. I found it entertaining. What'd you think, Jordan? What's your hot take on this?
I dig it.
Totally dig it.
No, I was just doing my best Aquaman impression there. That's a Justice League quote. If you call back that far, it's it's a good one.
We prefer not to, but if you insist.
I actually quite liked it. Quite maybe lead you to think I'm going to be singing its praises a little more than I am, but I found it to be a really enjoyable film. Some flaws, certainly. I think based on the way you were describing, I think I may have liked it a bit more than you, Andrew, but I'd say it's like in the tier of movies that are enjoyable, they're fun, that I'd be willing to own, willing to watch again, all that kind of stuff. Enjoy myself for a couple hours. Would have enjoyed myself more for a couple hours, honestly. I think it ran about 2.5, so overstayed its welcome a little bit, but was a fun ride from mostly start to finish. I do recall seeing, at one point I was putting on some of those DC movies on either Hulu or Netflix, the animated films, for like background noise around my apartment, and I feel like there's an Aquaman animated film that is like almost beat for beat the plot of this movie. It's like nothing was super surprising or interesting or anything like that, but the spectacle is really what drew me in for this one, personally.
Yeah, I don't think I've seen that particular animated film, but I think it's fair to say this is somewhat, I think, probably a combination of both of your comments. The writing is clearly not what carries this movie into being anything enjoyable. It's rough, I think, from a dialogue standpoint. casting, I think, is a little bit uneven, and uneven, I think, is probably the word I would use to describe my feelings about this movie. There's a lot of things in this that I enjoyed. I had overall a pretty good time with this movie. I had a lot of fun with it, for the most part. There are parts in this movie, I think, particularly the second act in general, it kind of hits a slog, and the humor really doesn't work. There's a particular song usage in it that is almost enough for me to walk out of the movie at that point. But I do think it manages to recover by its third act, and I think it avoids some of the pitfalls, I think, of the DC third act of big smoke monsters and stuff like that. There is some floaty fighting going on, sure, but as you said, I think it's fitting, and I would say that this movie has more spectacle and far more ambition, I think, than really any DC movie in this particular universe prior to it. And I think that's kind of what makes me
it didn't feel
respect
like,
the filmmaking behind this movie so much more. Because, God, man, we talked about it, so I don't feel too bad bringing it up now. Justice League, man, how is Justice League just this wet fart in comparison to an Aquaman movie in terms of the amount of effort put into the movie? It's clear that, and I think I forget exactly what he was offered. I think James Wan was offered the chance to do either a Flash movie or an Aquaman movie, and he chose to do an Aquaman movie. And to me, that suggests he's like, I have something interesting to tell about this character. And I don't think that's totally reflected in, say, the script and, say, the way it's written. But I think that just visually speaking, it's clear that, he's someone that kind of took the concept of it and ran with it. You look at Aquaman and Batman v Superman, and Jason Momoa looked like he was holding his breath underwater for 3 seconds. There's the scene in Justice League where Aquaman is talking to Mera in a little bubble because they didn't know how to have these characters talk underwater, basically, and you can't have just everyone talk in bubbles for this movie. So it kind of just totally leans into the whole craziness of Atlantis and this whole race of peoples that live underwater, have this fully functioning civilization underwater, and I think that's cool. I think it's cool that they went full tilt with making this super close to the comic books, and kind of
it's cool when you make a comic book movie.
Yeah, and I've heard this kind of thought said on the internet. This feels like the most Marvel movie that DC has made so far. And uncoincidentally,
That's
it's
true.
probably one of the best that they've put out, which very low bar to clear. But I think, I don't think it quite hits the highs that Wonder Woman has. It's certainly not as consistent, I think, as Wonder Woman is. But the ambition here, the spectacle it's really, I think, something to behold. The action sequences, the way they're choreographed, the way they're shot, it's way more creative. There's a lot of kind of overhead I think it's a lot of CG kind of used within it, but it kind of has this fluid dynamic feel to a lot of it that you didn't get in, I think, anything prior to it, in terms of the DC movies. So I think there's, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of weird to sing some praises about Aquaman, to say that there's, this is, I wish Venom surprised me in the way that Aquaman did. Venom was pretty much exactly what we expected. And I think with this one, I think initially, before we really got any sort of marketing for it, I was like, you know what, James Wan, he's a pretty talented director. I've liked most of his work in the past. Maybe there's something here. And then the marketing came out, and I'm like, scratch all that. But I think maybe I feel now something a little bit closer to my original thoughts, where it's certainly got parts in it that are rough to watch. It's a movie that it's far from perfect. Could have used a lot of help. But yeah, it's hard to. I mean, it would be hard for me to say that I didn't enjoy my time watching this movie, although it did take up a lot of my time, and I wish it took up less. I will agree with Jordan on that front. I think the pacing is it's a little overlong. I think there's a tighter experience within this movie. I think there's a 2 hour, 10-minute kind of movie. I think that works better overall. But yeah, I mean Aquaman, man, it's a movie, and it's one that's not half bad. Who'd have thunk it?
It's amazing what happens. It's amazing what happens when you actually use color. Color's a good thing.
Yes, yeah. Say no gray smoke monsters or the like. I think it's cool. I mean, yeah, lean into that. Don't make this super gray version of your universe. And yeah, it is amazing what happens, right? I think. I've been talking a lot, so that actually kind of reminds me of something I wanted to touch on just a little bit. Casting. How'd you guys feel about casting in general? We've seen Momoa and mostly Justice League, who's, like I said, he was holding his breath underwater for 3 seconds in BVS. So how'd you feel about him here? How'd you feel about the rest of the cast? I mean, Amber Heard obviously gets a pretty good-sized role here. Patrick Wilson as the villain. We could talk about the character. We're kind of part of that, and spoilers, I think. But, how'd you feel about the casting in general?
I thought that that Momoa is good for the Aquaman that he was playing. I do like what's her name? Amber Heard.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I thought she was not to fall into my normal tropes of verbiage here, but she's cool. She's a cool character. I think her powers are interesting.
She is also cool. We can. Yeah. It's fine.
Yeah,
it's fine. We understand. It's a hot take.
Dolph Lundgren is fucking cool. Hot take, yeah, hot take. Amber Heard is fucking cool. Dolph Lundgren is. I had no idea Dolph Lundgren was in this movie, so that's pretty cool. Now, what was going on with Jason Momoa's dad's face? Was that?
They de-aged it in the beginning. Is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, that was kind of. I don't know about that.
It looked like they kind of did the DNR they did for the Predator on the Blu-ray. I don't know if you're talking about where they kind of just like they took away the digital grain and made them look like wax figures. It didn't look.
Yeah, he kind of looked a little waxy.
It didn't look as convincing as some of the Marvel de-aging, I would say. And I will take my paycheck for that comment. Thank you very much.
The mom was cool though. Who played her? I don't have
Nicole Kidman.
Yeah, Nicole Kidman was cool. And her role, I enjoyed the cast. I thought it was pretty good.
Okay, yeah. How'd you feel about it, Jordan? Them, I should say.
Well, I mean, obviously, Momoa is not the typical, I guess, very Aryan, I would say, version of the character that is the comic book version. I don't have any problem with him, how he embodies the physicality of the role. I think it's a fine change for the character. I think he was good for the action beats in this film. I think he... and I don't know if the my man, I dig it's badass is him or the character or combination of the two.
Redheads, gotta love them.
Yeah,
so I don't know exactly where that comes from, but I still don't love that. Seemed like it was. Honestly, I don't know if it was tuned down so much as it was spread over a couple hours, as opposed to Justice League, where he's got a scene, he's splitting the scene with all the other characters, so he's got his little catchphrases and such here and there, but. I just thought that his character, obviously carrying what emotional weight there was in the movie, which was not a ton, but there is some there throughout the course of the adventure, early on and towards the end, the climax and all that. I think he maybe doesn't have quite the range I would want to see to handle some of those more emotionally taxing scenes. And I felt kind of the same. Mira, Amber Heard. I don't want to say I thought they were bad. I thought they were perfectly adequate. They just weren't exceptional, and they didn't quite weren't able to cover a huge range. And in my opinion, some of the weakest parts of the movie is just the two of them and their journey together. I think you talked about the second act of the film where it kind of slows down and slogs down. They're trying to work some comedic chops, and a lot of that stuff didn't work for me. But not terrible, just not great. The rest of the cast I thought was in general pretty good. A lot less was asked of them. I think there were a lot more one-dimensional characters, be that Willem Dafoe or Patrick Wilson as Orm. I don't think they were asked to do a whole lot, and I think they filled those roles perfectly adequately. I did think Mira was cool, the powers, the way they visualized the powers and all that, and I, as somebody who knows nothing about Aquaman, I've never read a comic other than his appearances in some other stuff I may have seen, Justice League, some of the animated stuff. I literally don't know anything about him. I knew nothing about her character's abilities. It was kind of cool, the visualization. And basically, I mean, she's a badass in her own right as well. Badass in her own way as well. Yeah, I mean, there were problems I had with the performances, but there were quibbles. They're not like, holding me back from enjoying the movie or anything like that.
Yeah, I kind of feel the same way. I thought that they all did, I think, quite well for what they were asked to do. For the most part, I did feel the same way that Momoa probably doesn't have the range for probably what the character probably really needed, I think, to kind of take it to the next level. But it's not that kind of movie, too. So, it seems like it's a movie, I think, that's content with kind of surface level readings of characters, interpretations of characters, and so I actually felt like they all did pretty well for that. You guys have any some last minute non-spoiler thoughts, or would you like to move into recommendation?
I found William Dafoe's character distracting every time William Dafoe was there with his ponytail thing. I don't know. I just couldn't get over it. Just William Dafoe being there.
I'm something of an Atlantean myself.
Yeah, right. It's like, what? Forget all you know about the surfaced world. I want to teach you how to swim. It's like, what? What are you doing, dude? I don't buy it. You're full of shit.
I don't think it goes into spoilers, but it does seem a little weird. He's like, you don't know how to swim, and then he jumps in the water, and he literally knows how to swim. So I don't.
William Dafoe, you don't know what you're talking about, dude. Yeah. So
is that a recommendation time kind of
we can
conversation?
That was you asked about the cast, and William Dafoe would be the exception to my general thought on the cast. Is I found him.
That's not really a criticism of his performance, just of him being himself and just not right for the role, in your opinion.
Yeah, I think. I don't know. He's one of those. I don't want to say he's like typecasted in anything in particular. It's just I know William Dafoe. William Dafoe. Like Dolph Lundgren got away with being Mira's father, and I didn't even recognize him. And that was okay. But William Dafoe around with Aquaman was just a little. It's like what's going on here? I didn't buy into it.
Willem Dafoe is definitely a guy that
is Willem
is not to be missed. I think it might actually be William. I think he changed it to Willem to be his acting stage name. But
is that right?
Willem is what he goes by. Yeah, but I mean he's certainly a. You can't hide him anywhere. I mean you can't disguise that that's who he is and. How he sounds. He's very unique and distinct for sure.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So
yeah.
Not to criticize his acting ability, but anyways, I digress. On to recommendations.
Yes, indeed. How do you feel this stacks up, Andrew? Is it worth a theater visit? Is it?
I think it's worth a theater
Blu-ray kind of thing.
I think it's worth a theater visit. There's a lot of spectacle here.
All right.
I think visually, and it's entertaining enough. I don't think. It does slog a little bit, and it's not the most intellectually stimulating movie, but it is. It's a good spectacle superhero movie, and it's probably it's definitely one of the best that DC's put out in probably a good number of years. So, I think it's worth a theater view for sure. What do you guys think?
I think the spectacle alone is for sure worth a trip to the theater. IMAX in particular is how I saw it, and I think really it's the CG, the action, everything gets a little chaotic towards the end, but it's really, I think, a very visually enjoyable film, and the story that's there is not incredible or original or unique, as I said earlier, but it's entertaining enough to get you from point A to point B to point C, and shows the spectacle the whole way. And I really think it's definitely worth the trip. I'd recommend IMAX if possible, or if you're a fan of the Big D, you can go ahead and get the
Catch
Big D.
Jason Momoa on the Big D. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, definitely enjoy Jason Momoa's Big D experience.
That's one way to sell lots of tickets.
Who the fuck names a format the Big D? AMC, what are you thinking?
They knew exactly what they were doing. Let's be honest. They knew exactly what they were doing because they knew people like us would have it as a recurring joke. So and they know that one of these days we are going to make our way to the Big D just so we can say that we've experienced
I've experienced the Big D.
I'm not going to lie. I may not do that. I'm afraid to experience.
You don't want to join us
D.
at the Big D?
I don't know if I can ever go back, and I just want to live my life before the Big D as long as possible, because my life after the Big D may never be the same.
It'll never be the same. Big D's going to change you.
Yeah. Well, I would say based on the quality of this film, I don't, if we look at our rating scale in terms of like sliding scale of quality, then I think it probably falls more into the Blu-ray recommendation. But I think that on the merits of this being kind of like a popcorn movie, I think it's definitely worth a theater visit. Purely, again, based on the visuals, the spectacle of it. I think that it's the type of movie I think that would play exceptionally well. I think it would play much better, I think anyway, in a theater type environment where you can have, IMAX type sound or Dolby Atmos type sound. I think that's got to be the way to do it. If you're gonna go see this, I can't speak for the Big D, but it'll probably do. If that's what's available near you. So again, theater recommendations for Aquaman. What a world. What a time to be alive, my friends. What a time to be alive.
DC made a movie.
and it wasn't half bad. Very interesting. Let's do some full spoilers here. Some full spoilers for Aquaman. I would like to, up top, I just want to get this out of the way. What the fuck were they thinking with the Pitbull song?
Is that the Africa song?
It's the Africa song.
Well, they were flying over Africa. I mean, that's what they were doing. And they had the
song. The song is called "Ocean to Ocean" by Pitbull featuring Rhea. I know because it's in my go-to Spotify list. It actually came to me in my Discover Weekly because they knew I was going to love the song and heard it in the movie. I knew this was the movie for me. I wish we could play it here, but there's probably royalties and such attached. So you just have to imagine the Ocean to Ocean.
What's the London Bridges song? I found that song detracting too. I think if they had an Atlantis theme song where somebody was singing about Atlantis, they probably would have played that in Atlantis. I don't think that they're very original with their. I don't know. I don't know what they were thinking.
It's a Fast and Furious move. I'm going to go ahead and say that's a Fast and Furious move, the Pitbull thing. So I think there's some vestiges of that.
I guess coming from someone that directed one of the Fast and Furious entries, I suppose it's par for the course. Is that
what it is?
Right?
Maybe it's like a campy thing. I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't buy into it.
It is absolutely the worst rendition of or anything remotely associated with the Toto song Africa to have ever been made. And it was just a very
like as soon as it starts playing and then they break into that chorus or whatever it is, it's just like what
it felt very out of place. Like it definitely pulled me out of the movie. Like Like, I think you could have stuck that as like a credit song, you know, like that's directed by blah blah blah, and you play Pitbull, and I'm like, all right, that's a fucking bad choice, but at least it's buried in the credits, and you're okay, whatever. But like, kind of in the middle of the movie, it's just, oh man, it was not good. That was the moment where I was really questioning if this movie has lost the plot, and I think it actually. Again, I think that's kind of right around the point where the movie's the worst, where it's Sam and Mara, going through their adventure and peeing on or not peeing on things to to retrieve the trident or whatever, and it was most of what that 6-minute trailer was, and it was bad dialogue, bad banter, just bad everything, and I was just kind of like, ooh, hopefully the rest of the movie isn't like this.
One thing I will jump in and say now that we're in spoilers is, I think it's kind of a basic technique of storytelling is to not spring anything out of nowhere, but I did feel it was a little bit heavy-handed in terms of like foreshadowing, and I'm sure I'll probably miss examples, but at the beginning, I'll go every morning and I'll meet you here in the morning, that's going to come back. The Carathin, is that the name of the sea monster?
Yeah, I think so.
That, and I'm like, that's going to be in the movie. Volko teaching him the spinning move, that's going to be in the movie. The talking to the fish, even though he has not talked to sea life at all, and I think Justice League or any of the other ones, but it's like, here he can talk to this, and then Mira mentions, oh, this trident allows you to speak to the fish, and I'm like, oh, he can already speak to the fish, so we know it's going to come back, that's going to be a thing, and then he speaks to the Carathin. It was a little heavy-handed, I thought. A little subtlety stick could have done some work on that, but
the writing was not the strong suit.
No,
it's a comic book movie, so I mean it's to be expected, but that was something that stood out to me. It was just like really in your face. I'm kind of a big picture guy who sometimes misses the subtlety, and I enjoy the whole that's there, but like it's kind of like a score, like for example, a Pitbull song in a movie that like stands out and takes you out of it, like, but it's just so in your face, it takes me out of like being in the moment, I guess.
No, that's true.
But
I know what you're saying. You can see the seams of the movie of like, it's just this plot point, and we know we're going to come back to that. So yeah, and I also feel like it doesn't help when, even if it is kind of a very predictable movie, I feel like it didn't help that clearly the WB marketing team thought that they were losing people, so they decided to just spoil kind of the big suit reveal and the trident reveal in the marketing. Like, Jordan and I were walking into the theater, and there's the big IMAX poster, which is literally just the moment of him like walking out of the waterfall in full Aquaman costume, with the trident, which that moment doesn't happen until like 3/4 of the way into the movie, and it's just kind of like, I mean, I knew that was coming because of that. I mean, I probably would have predicted it anyway, but it could have been a nice hurrah moment if I hadn't seen it already, It was kind of just felt like that was a weird kind of decision to make. He said, even in spite of all the predictability that we've already kind of factored in, I felt like that was kind of, I don't know, could have lived without seeing that.
I was surprised about one thing.
What was that?
So they're running away from those monster fish, and they go through that vortex, and then it says the Lost Lake or the Forgotten Lake, the center of the earth. I said, what the fuck, he traveled to the center of the earth? That kind of blew me away. I laughed out loud when I saw that. And then she almost got ate by a dinosaur, and then there were pterodactyls and stuff flying around. That kind of threw me for a loop. I was a little surprised about that. Did you guys anticipate the journey to the center of the earth?
I did not predict dinosaurs, for sure. So, in terms of my criticism about foreshadowing, I did not predict dinosaurs. But whatever. It's kind of
cool.
I dug it.
I'm glad that I'm glad that we got a definitive answer as to where the dinosaurs went. So I feel like
right.
I didn't think they were going to be in the middle of the earth. It's a pretty good hiding spot.
That's a pretty good hiding spot.
The reason we don't know where they went. So,
yeah. I will tell you that I kind of enjoyed. Man, mean, I guess there was minimal growth there because Mira, came to the surface area to try to save the surface world. But I think her growth of the character was a little bit more interesting than Jason's or Aquaman's. I didn't find Aquaman I didn't find him very interesting. I kind of feel like he's like I don't know.
I mean, it wasn't like he didn't really grow so much.
Exactly.
He kind of starts at the beginning where he was at the end of Justice League, which was a real good movie that we all remember.
Come on.
But I guess his big character moment is the moment with the Carathan where he's like, his old movie's position is, I don't want to be king. I don't want to be king. Okay, I'll do the bare minimum to get by. And then like the big moment is when he says, I'm not worthy. And then, the whole point is that you realizing you're not worthy is why you are worthy. And, that's like his big character moment is just kind of a 30-second scene where he's, says, "Oh, I guess I could be a good king because I realize my flaws and that was what makes me a good king or whatever." But there was not a ton of growth. The journey to get him to that moment to make that realization is kind of, I guess, his character's journey. But it's not a huge difference from where he started the movie.
No, and I feel like there's there's a better character to be had there than what we're given. I just kind of find him one-dimensional. I don't really find him all that interesting.
I didn't really find any of the characters to be very complex in general. There is kind of that half-assed arc for Arthur to embrace his role as king, but Mara kind of starts as someone that very obviously thinks that Orm is crazy and needs to be stopped, and she kind of ends in the same spot. I mean, I guess the only development with her character is she grows to like Aquaman to kind of build that relationship, but that's not really a good defining trait for a character, especially a female character. It's kind of the oldest trope in the book.
No, she kind of finds a way to appreciate the surface, I think.
Yeah, I guess, but I think
it's more growth than Jason because Jason's or not. I keep calling him Jason. I guess Arthur is that his name?
To be fair, I feel like he's just playing himself in this role.
Yeah, right. I guess right. His stake in his whole stake in leading Atlantis and becoming Atlantean and everything is almost. His growth in that respect is from Mira, I feel, and I guess in the same way her respect for the surface areas through her relationship with him. So I guess it's kind of an equal growth, I guess. But he didn't spend any time in Atlantis to really appreciate it. Where she goes to Sicily or Italy or wherever the fuck they're at, and she's eating flowers and reading Pinocchio, and that's. I don't know. I just thought it was a little bit more interesting. But that's just me.
I think the movie would clearly fail. I think it's the Bechdel test where it's two women talking about something other than one of the male characters. I think there's a total of, two women in the entire movie, and they're rarely together, and when they are together, they're probably...
It's not true. There's the fisherman princess. Don't forget about the fisherman princess.
The fisherman princess?
The fisherman princess. The fisherman, yes. So important they have no names other than fisherman.
Fisherman king and fisherman princess. Very, very important roles.
The job is to look dumbfounded on screen. But I guess, it's appreciable that they didn't make her like a damsel in distress. I mean, she's obviously pretty powerful in her own right. She knows what needs to be done. That she's the driving force of the action of the movie. She gets him involved. She helps him along the way. She risks her own position to help him. She saves him several times throughout the course of the film. So, I mean, in terms of action and stuff like that, I think she's got a decent role in terms of in terms of all that.
Would you want Jason Momoa being your king? I gotta just beat on that.
Well,
no.
Given the current political climate, I'm open to the idea.
I guess to follow on that a little bit, Aquaman is our hero and we're rooting for him and all that. But, I mean, if you're talking about the Atlantean philosophical position, Orm is obviously presented as cartoonishly evil, but Nereus, Dolph Lundgren, his character is kind of a more pragmatic version of that. But I guess the question is, but were they wrong? I mean, from an ocean dweller, advanced society.
Yeah, no, fuck the surface world.
Advanced, and living in a world that's being polluted by these people that are ignorant. Were they wrong, really? So, I don't know. I guess.
Well, I mean, kind of. I kind of think they're a little wrong.
Yeah. I think we can definitely say that Orm is a bit misguided, and that probably destroying the surface world out of
like my opinion on that
probably not the best way to go about things. I mean, the whole idea of bridging the gaps between the worlds. I feel like you could do that without having a king that is part of both worlds. Like you could, I think there's a way to, have a reasonable king that just kind of be like, hey, like we kind of occupy this world. Maybe we can,
you can
have a dialogue and get this shit sorted out so they can stop polluting our shit and, killing all the fish or whatever. Which I think, don't they eat fish? I mean, it's kind of, I don't know, it's kind of a weird thing, but anyway.
Yeah, what the fuck do they eat down there? That's a good point.
I think they eat fish.
Well, let me ask you this: would we eat cows if we could talk to cows?
Probably.
I don't think we'd eat fucking cows if we could talk to cows.
Fish. I think that's like a special power.
Yeah, but
also it's a little bit stratified in terms of class and class warfare, in that only the rich, famous white people get to breathe on the surface and do whatever they want. Everybody else is like, go fuck yourselves. You can wear this goofy looking shark scuba suit to go to the surface or die.
Stick your head in a toilet bowl.
Something to be.
Yeah.
Although from that same scene, I will say I thought the wine. I mean, I feel like she probably could have just like used the bottles themselves as weapons because they're pretty heavy duty. But like that whole scene with the wine,
that was pretty cool. Yeah,
the spears out of the wine was a pretty cool visual effect scene. I guess we haven't mentioned it at all, but Black Manta. I don't feel like he was necessary to the movie.
Yeah,
if you're talking trimming the fat, I feel like pretty much all of his character development could have gone. Although I think it's somewhat interesting, the character moment, which you don't typically see. It's kind of the Batman, I'm not going to kill you, but I don't have to save you kind of scenario with him, and kind of, did he do right or did he do wrong? I guess that's kind of an interesting nuance in terms of what I was talking about earlier, asking for some subtlety. It's not subtle at all, but in terms of, I guess, the character being 100% good, 100% bad, in terms of like Aquaman versus Orm. But I thought he was a pretty interesting character. I enjoyed what was there. Again, I think maybe it could have been cut to save for the sequel and cut the fat a little bit. But I liked the performance. I liked the idea of it. It was very comic booky. I'm not going to argue it's not comic booky, but I still enjoyed it.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting that they chose to include basically two pretty. I mean, I think Black Manta, I think, is probably the biggest Aquaman villain in the comics, which I don't think Aquaman is particularly known for his rogues gallery, but I think Black Manta is up there on the list. But I found it interesting that they kind of had this introduction to that character and had him more as kind of, kind of a henchman-esque character who obviously has his own kind of B plot motivation type thing, and then we had Ocean Master or Orm, kind of as this principal villain. It was interesting that they chose to include both of those, and I agree that the Black Manta stuff wasn't, I think, totally necessary, but I did enjoy him being included. I thought it was interesting that they kind of created they had the kind of the villain origin story within the context of this movie. And then presumably, come Aquaman 2, should it get made, which it probably will, then, that's probably the time that you bring him as the lead kind of villain, and then kind of, have him be more of the kind of focal point, in terms of the conflict between him and Aquaman. Yeah, I mean, we really haven't talked about him a whole lot. What do you guys think about King Orm, or as he later becomes the Ocean Master?
He's just kind of an asshole. I don't really have a whole lot to say about that guy.
Fair enough.
I think he's a pretty, I don't know.
I think he's kind of like a cartoonish, stereotypical villain, kind of what you expect to see if you pick up like a young adult novel or a comic book, obviously. And there's not a lot of nuance to him, but I thought he gave a good performance, and I actually really liked the visuals, especially the Ocean Master suit, the moving mask.
Yeah, that was kind of cool.
The scale armor he was wearing. I thought it was kind of a cool visual contrast, him and Aquaman fighting each other in their respective costumes. He gave it everything he was expected to give it, and not much more. But I mean, that's what he was supposed to do. So I thought he was good. I thought the character was, like basic, but I thought he did a good job with the role.
Yeah, I agree. I respect their commitment to that Ocean Master costume, because that is a pretty, lifted straight out of the comic book pages adaptation of that costume. So it was cool to see that. I like Patrick Wilson as an actor a lot, so I enjoyed him being in this film. I thought, yeah, basic role, but I thought he did a pretty good job with it. And it was a good kind of foil for Aquaman. I felt like, in terms of like doing an origin story of sorts for Aquaman, I felt like that was a good kind of, it was a good way to, I think, have him as a villain. I'd say probably definitely one of the, again, very low bar we're talking about here, but I would say one of the better villains in the DC movies. I think he was better than, say, Ares was in Wonder Woman, which I think is a superior film overall, but I would say in terms of villains, I thought he was definitely better.
But what about Steppenwolf?
I think he's a little bit, I don't know, he's not quite on the Steppenwolf tier overall, but...
What's the deal with the guy that was on the news and he sees the garbage up on the thing, and it was obviously from Atlantis because garbage washed up on shore. There's these tidal waves. You know what I'm talking about? The guy that was in the post credit?
Yeah. Well, we can talk about that whole scene now. It's probably a good time. The mid credit scene. So Randall Park is the actor playing that role. I don't really know exactly what the purpose, like, I don't know what the intention, I guess, is probably the better way of framing it. I don't know what the intention is with the inclusion of that character. So Jordan and I had both basically assumed he was a comic book character based on the way that they kind of emphasized that role, and we confirmed that with some Googling after the fact. I don't know. I mean, I don't really know
is he a villain?
Planning on doing. I don't think so. I think he's just kind of a character in the Aquaman comics, but I don't know that he's anyone like super pertinent to really anything. So I don't know. I don't really know enough about Aquaman to say that with confidence either. But it definitely seemed like they, like the whole bit with the TV. I don't know if that was purely included just so they could justify his inclusion in the mid-credit sequence, and not just be like a random like, oh, it's that guy, doing the, I don't know. I don't know if there's some bigger purpose that they're thinking, or if they might try to craft him as like a villainous character in a sequel. I really don't know. I don't know. I found that whole mid-credit scene entirely too long,
yeah.
And a bit over the top, and it was too much. I felt like, you see Black Manta survives on the plank or whatever, what he was on, and that's enough, right? You get the point. Like, I think if you just see him like open his eyes, like, oh, he's alive, we get it. He's pissed at Aquaman. He doesn't like Aquaman. He killed his dad or let his dad die, and he defeated them again. I think that's enough. That's enough motivation. Like, I kind of found like the whole thing after the fact. It was a little cornball for my taste, I thought.
Well, you're not wrong about that.
Yeah, it was a little corny. There were a few moments. The other one that stands out is the little kid talking to the fish, and the eyes turn. He looks at the other kids with his eyes turning yellowish, and it's just kind of a goofy scene. But it's whatever. It's 20 seconds of a movie. I think the mid-credit scene is more emblematic of a world in flux where they really have no idea what they want to do, and is there going to be a flashpoint that restarts the whole thing? Or now that Wonder Woman's popular and this one's done well, are they going to try to right the ship? So I feel like, they could have done something else, but they weren't really sure where the universe was going. And there's maybe a Batman or not a Batman. Nobody really knows on that. Wonder Woman, really, the only thing they could do, I think, that would be able to do a credit connection. But if that movie takes place in 1984 or whatever, how are they supposed to do that? So I think that's just they didn't have anything else to do, so they had to do something connected to the movie you just seen. And like I said, I agree, certainly the he's alive would probably be enough. As far as the character goes, I did a quick search, and it seems like he's just a minor character and an Aquaman ally rather than an enemy. So if they're setting him up to be some kind of big villain, either I completely missed that on my quick search, or they're going a different direction. So we'll see.
I don't know. Well, I mean, I feel like it's probably going to get a sequel. I guess dependent upon what DC does with their other movies, as you were just talking about, Jordan. So I would say based on the success, I would think based on the fucking Chinese box office numbers alone, this thing's getting a sequel. And I'm okay with that. I'd be okay with that. I feel like it'd be interesting to see how they would approach a movie with him as king from the beginning, because I feel like that's a very fundamentally different movie. So I feel like there's opportunity for them to kind of expand the world with a sequel. Maybe bring in some other players from the DC universe. I think that could work too. This one was kind of separated from that, and that was good, I think, for what this movie needed to be. But I think that, I'd like to see. I was going to make a joke. I was like, "What's the worst DC character I'd like to?" I'd like to see the Jared Leto Joker pop up in this. You know what I'm saying? Took some time.
Hard pass.
Oh Lord!
No. I don't know. I think you can. I think you could definitely have a successful sequel here. So. I know you guys aren't really overly familiar with the Aquaman mythos, so I won't ask you for any specific desires for sequels. But I'll just ask, you guys game for a sequel if they make one?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm definitely interested to see where they go next. I have a fear that it'll be something, there's a big threat and he has to give up his throne to deal with a big threat or something like that, and it's kind of a retread or a rehash. I just hope to see something not like that, kind of something original and entertaining. I mean, as long as it's good, I'm along for any ride. But I'm interested to see what happens next. I'd definitely be down for that.
Yeah, as long as they use the tagline for the sequel, "Ride ain't over yet." Yeah, pretty good, right? Yeah, you guys are quite astonished, I can tell. That's about it for me. You guys got any other thoughts on the Aqua Bro?
Nah, that's it, man. You've heard all our thoughts. My thoughts. You've heard all my thoughts. I don't want to speak for everybody, but...
Well, I already said it's mine, so...
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure there's some things that are meritorious of discussion that we forgot to address entirely, but I mean, I think anybody that's listened to us for the last few minutes has certainly got our general impressions of it, and I think that's, I walked into this movie like I walk into all these movies, including Venom, wanting to enjoy them, even if the marketing and everything tells me... leaves me with a sense of foreboding that I'm going to be suffering for the next couple of hours. And I was pleasantly, not necessarily surprised, but I did enjoy this movie, and I'm glad that I did, and I'm glad that I got a chance to see it in IMAX and enjoy all the spectacle. And I think it's a worthwhile entry into the cinematic universe for sure, especially in one that's been deprived of a lot of quality entries. So it was a good film. It's a good experience, and enjoyed it.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Let's catch up. Andrew, what have you been up to since we recorded last?
I watched Nightflyers.
All of it?
All of it.
All of it. How'd you feel about it?
It was interesting enough for me to complete.
I heard it got pretty bonkers here and there.
It did. I feel like it was. I think that they made everything convoluted just for the sake of making it convoluted. Does that make sense? Like, there was no reason for things to be the way that they were. Like, it just doesn't. I don't know. It's like, that's just a little. And normally I don't have a problem with that sort of stuff. I guess maybe it's just the way that everything came together. But overall, I did enjoy it. Like I said, I actually bought all the episodes on Amazon because I don't have Sci-Fi, and I watched it all. And like I said, it's an interesting show. I enjoyed it, but just kind of, I don't know. Just tried to be overcomplicated, I think, in the way that in its conclusion. But aside from that, I've been playing a lot of but Super Smash Brothers, which is a pretty cool game. I'm not very good at it, but it's cool. I enjoy it. A lot of Civilization, which is a very cool game. I'm also not very good at it, but I enjoy it. And fixing to go on vacation, which is also cool. I'm fixing to go skiing for about a week and a half.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
Yeah.
Well, I can say if you're through with your list, sounded like you were.
Yeah, I'm a little. I'm through. Yeah,
I don't want to be presumptuous about things, but. Well, Jordan and I have been hanging out in Virginia for the past few days. We've watched a handful of movies, so that's really all I have to talk about. First thing I'd want to shout out is Teen Titans Go to the movies.
Oh, you seen it?
I seen it. I didn't get a chance to catch it in theaters, and I ended up buying the Blu-ray for pretty cheap around Black Friday time. And I watched it, and I had a pretty good time with it. It's got some catchy songs that have been stuck in my head for the past couple days, I will admit. And I had a good time with it. It's also got Aquaman in it, but he's in it for like a second. We watched A Few Good Men. So we didn't actually watch a Christmas movie on Christmas, interestingly enough, which I think A Christmas Story is usually our go-to. We watched A Few Good Men on Christmas. Not obviously,
yeah, that's a way to do it.
Not obviously appropriate, but it just happened to work out that way effectively. And so it's a good movie. It's a good movie, and it's a damn good cruise missile performance. And I wanted the truth, and I thought I handled the truth pretty well with it personally. And then not too long ago, actually earlier today, we had a little technical hiccups trying to get the damn thing set up in 4K. But we watched Solo: A Star Wars Story, which is the first time I think I've seen it since the theatrical release, and I thought it was fun. I thought it was fun. I know we did a whole episode on it or whatever, but I feel like my thoughts have generally remained pretty unchanged from it, where I think it's an imperfect but pretty enjoyable film. Wish it did better. I would like to see a future film that would kind of, pick up some of the storylines that it set up, especially towards the end. But that's pretty much it on my end. Jordan, do you have any? I know all the three movies I just mentioned you have watched recently as well. But do you want to tack on some thoughts to those? Do you have any other things you've been doing lately you want to talk about?
Yeah, I was wondering if you were stalking me or something, because your list you just ran through sounds
watching through the window
similar to what I've been doing over the past few days. But nothing major. Obviously, I'm presently on vacation, enjoying the hospitality of our parents as we celebrate the holidays. I'm heading back in a couple days back to Texas and get back to the grind and the regular daily life. But just enjoying myself. Getting fat on copious amounts of food, alcohol, and dessert foods. Just enjoying myself before I head back. Played a few rounds of the new Smash game with you. I've come to the conclusion that I'm too old for this shit, for sure. I'm out of my element. I'm no longer good enough at games. I guess I got to pick my poison and stick to them, and fighting games are not my poison. I just need to stay away from
I'm with you there, man.
RPGs and all that kind of stuff.
Fighting games and Mega Man.
It's fun. It's just a chaotic mess. No, nothing really. too new and exciting. Just keeping on. I remember the last time I've been a guest on your show, but it's been fun to record with you guys over the past little while here, and just thanks for the opportunity. And it's been fun to follow you guys and listen to you guys, and to jump on occasionally and add my thoughts. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for joining us. We always appreciate having you on. All right. Well, I guess let's go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you all for listening to our show, to this episode. If you enjoyed what you heard, spread the word. That is Jordan's favorite rhyme, as a side note. If you'd like to contribute to the cause, if you want to help us out with your wallet, you can do so through our Patreon. Head to watchreviewrepeat.com, our website. Go to the premium tab up in the top left, and then click the Become a Patron button. So $2 on a monthly basis will get you access to all of our bonus episodes that we do, as well as early access to all of the regular episodes that we do, such as this one. And at present, our timed exclusive Patreon bonus episode is on the Trilogía de Guillermo del Toro, which is on 3 movies by director Guillermo del Toro: Kronos, The Devil's Backbone, and Pan's Labyrinth. It's a good episode, so help us out. Support us on Patreon if you want to check that out. If you want to get in touch with us on our social media accounts, it's very easy to do so. You can follow us on Twitter at WRRPod, or like us at Watch Review Repeat on Facebook. You can get in contact with us on Gmail, watchreviewrepeat@gmail.com. Our intro and outro track is Mechanolith by Kevin MacLeod. That is licensed under the Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our next episode will be on Mary Poppins Returns. And we're going to do the entire episode with British accents. So that'll be fun. It's not true. That's not actually going to happen. But it'll be a fun episode regardless. So stay tuned for that. Until then, we say...
Ladies on the Minjay.